see here. Ooh, that was loud in your face. Okay, hi everybody. My name is Professor Kalsee Kohs. This is the Divination Academy. I am so happy you're here with me today. This is the Light Deity Devotional series I am teaching, and today we are going to be covering the Japanese goddess Amaterasu. I'm really excited to cover her. She's one I personally work with, and I've been working with for a while now. I honestly don't even know if I could tell you how long. I love working with her outside of dark goddesses. She's one of my favorite deities that I work with. I have her always present at my altar, and she's very much a part of my path and my worship. And she's just really just a very big deity that I'm really excited to introduce you guys to. So a little bit of housekeeping, because I do see a couple names that I don't recognize. Thank you so much for being here with me. Again, my name is Professor Kalsee Kohs. I am a professor here at Divination Academy. If you haven't found us before, we are a free pagan academy, and we believe that education and resources and knowledge should be free and accessible to all. So that's what we do, and that's what we offer. If you want to learn more about us, you can check out our website, divinationacademy.com. You can also check out previous classes that I've taught and other professors have taught on our YouTube channel. If you search Divination Academy, we're the first one that pops up. I think we might even be the only one, but we'll be right there. And I think right now we have like 182 different videos for you to look at. So there's lots and lots of stuff. And then you can also find us on Facebook. So if you search Divination Academy, we'll pop up as well. Send us a message with the word enroll to get enrolled as a student. You'll get access to our private Facebook community, certification programs, private apprenticeships, and a bunch of other stuff. So we have all that information there for you to look at and to get to know us. And we'd love to have you be more part of our community, to join more of our classes and all that fun stuff. So a little bit about me before we get going. Again, my name is Professor Kalsee Kohs. I have been a solitary practitioner for probably about 15 plus years now. Before that, I was a Christian missionary and dabbled in a lot of different religions. So I consider myself a mystic in a sense as well. Because of that, I pull from everywhere, every pantheon, I pull from all places I can look, historical significance, religious practices. I look at the archaeological standpoint. I look at everything when it comes to studying and working with somebody. Deity work is very central to my practice. I love working with deities. That's why I teach a lot about them. I love summoning them, invoking them. I love bringing you on guided meditations to meet them. And I'm very good at teaching you how to integrate them very much into your everyday life. And then I also consider myself a gray witch, which is why I'm making sure I'm talking about the light deities and not just the dark deities, because I live in balance and duality and the liminal space. And I think that as practitioners and humans, it is our responsibility to be in balance, which means we don't work with just love and light only. We don't work with just our shadows. We make sure that we have a balance and we work with both, and in a way to integrate them wholly, not to just pass through one to get to the other. So that's really how I practice, that's how I teach, and that's what I'm here to bring to you guys. So today, again, we're covering Amaterasu. If you guys need the link for the study guide, I'm going to drop it in the chat here again for you. If you're new with me, I teach directly from the study guide. This is everything I'll teach off of. You get to keep it, get access from it, all of that fun jazz. And then also, if you're new, I get very distracted by the chat. So I don't look at it nonstop. You can put whatever you would like into the chat whenever you would want. I will always answer and acknowledge everything that goes in there. It just might not be right away. So I always give that disclaimer, because I know sometimes when I go to classes and workshops, they watch that nonstop, and I get so distracted. Okay, let's jump into our study guide and let's learn about Amaterasu. Again, I love her. She is brilliant and radiant, and she is literally the heart, the soul, the center of Japanese mythology, of Shintoism, of the Japanese culture. She is known not only as the goddess of the sun, but also the kami of the entire universe, the kami who resides over and is the dominion and holds dominion over the highest celestial plane. She encompasses literally everything. She has lots of very many different things about her mythology and who she is that makes her unique within Shintoism and within that pantheon, which is also why she holds such reverence. She is probably one of the most revered and longing endeared deity probably in all of history, to be perfectly honest. She has not changed very much. Her influence has not wavered. It has not ever been able to be stamped out. And she also doesn't come from a religion that propagates itself, which is what makes her so amazing, and which makes her like the identity of her just, it's so endless, which is just beautiful about her. So if you want to learn more about Shintoism, by the way, I did already teach part 1 of a class, and I do have a blog post on my site, which is my business that I run, modgepodgemystic.com, and you can take a look on it there if you want to learn more about that. And then you'll learn more about the pantheons and the gods that she works with in part 2 of that class, which is in a couple weeks, by the way. So back to who she is. She is the sun, the universe. She is literally creation itself. She is considered the highest manifestation of the spirit of the universe and the source of all light and life and creation. She is said to be the entity and the deity that sustains heaven and earth as well, like all of that. So she brings us everything that we need to survive, our sustenance. She's about abundance. She also is said to be so just radiant, and her beauty and her light is so absolutely compelling. And she's just so beautiful that literally her father, who immediately, the second he laid on just eyes on her, appointed her ruler of the entire universe. Like that's how much she embodies all of that light, all that divinity, and all of those qualities. She provides a lot of comfort to the Japanese people and to those who practice Shintoism. She's very much known for calling on for comfort, for guidance, and protection. And this is also seen in the fact that she serves as the mother of the imperial family. So she actually is reserved as the goddess very specifically tied to the imperial family. And I'll talk about that a little bit later with you. She also is very much tied to mirrors. That's one of her sacred objects and something that represents her and being like the reflection of the universe and being able to permeate pretty much everything in all life. So that's another thing that we'll talk about as well that's pretty important with her. So that's a little bit of a brief overview with her. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty and dive deep into who she is. So she is really considered a very shimmering aura, and she's considered that essence and that energy that just spreads across the skies and touches all corners of the world, the universe, and the higher celestial planes. She is meant to signify new hope, new day, energy, everything that grows, sustenance, creation, abundance, all of that. She's meant to be all of that and that raw radiance and that raw power and that very divine energy. She's very much connected, like I said, to the rising of the sun, and that's very much a symbol to her. It's very common in Japanese culture and mythology and Shintoism to where greeting her every single day is very much a part of their life. I do it every single day in some way, shape, or form. I may not always go outside and be able to greet her, but in some way, shape, or form, I say some type of acknowledgement out loud to her. I go to some type of window at some point in time in my morning. It may not be immediately when I get up, but in some way, shape, or form, I always greet her, and that's very common to make sure that you acknowledge her for that. Also because she is seen as literally the queen and like the ruler of all the kami, like she is the kami of the universe. So she kind of has a little bit more sway than the rest of them. And her name literally translates to great, as in the great kami that illuminates the heavens. Because you'll very often see her name as Amaterasu, Amikami, because that's almost all deities are referred to as kami. It's literally just as if it's their surname kind of. So that's literally what she translates to, is the great kami that illuminates the heavens. So because of that, and because she's seen as kind of the queen of the kami, she holds that very high reverence place, and you'll see her worshipped and honored way more frequently, and she's a lot more prevalent. Some of the most sacred shrines and sacred temples in Japan are all centered around her. I mean, there's one to where literally, unless you are part of the imperial family or a priest of that temple, you can't even cross, enter, or go anywhere near that. Like, you can pay homage outside of the shrine, and that's it. Like, you cannot enter it. It is that sacred. They also say that her body's a shrine there and a couple other things, which we'll talk about later. But she is described as being very radiant, being very kind. She brings light and joy and prosperity. She's seen as like being that very jovial goddess that dances around and is laughing and is just really full of light. One of her myths, it even involves her and the creation, the said of being the creation of music and dance in Japan, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But she's very much that vibrant, that light, that joy, that prosperity, that very fun energy. But because she is tied to the celestial plane, and because she is the reason for all of the sustenance and all of our physical aspects, she's also tied to our enlightenment and our wisdom and our artistic inspiration. So you'll see that creativity and all of that enlightenment and that psychic ability flow through her as well. She's also credited in history as being the first person to ever use silkworms and looms for weaving, which is very crucial in that region and that part of the world for expansion of civilization as a whole. So that's very, very important to note as well. She is said to be the daughter of the divine creators of the world, Izanami and Izanagi. I can never pronounce them, but Izanami and Izanagi. They are the divine creators of the universe, the feminine and the masculine counterpart. You'll learn a little bit more about them later, and also in my class, my part 2 class of Shintoism. But she also is said to be said to have two brothers, which is Tsukiyomi, the god of the moon, and Susanoo, the god of storms and seas. It's also written that her and her brothers were the ones that actually painted the landscape of Japan. They're the ones that created the landscape of Japan after it was risen from the ocean and created, and they are responsible for all of that, which is why, again, they hold such reverence. Amaterasu is very, very powerful and very seen as very, very benevolent. In multiple legends of her stories, she gets upset because of other deities' actions, and because of their actions, the rest, she gets upset, and the rest of the world has to pay the consequences because she just doesn't like the way that they treat others, and she ends up, it ends up being a thing. In one of them, she literally retreats into a cave and just completely disappears. In another one, she ends up, she ends up getting her husband, also known as her brother, Tsukiyomi, the god of the moon. They completely separate, and that's why they're said to be night and day. Like they refuse to ever be near each other again because of something that he does and she disagrees with. So she's very much seen as a benevolent, powerful being that's very much about harmony and the greater good of the collective. And if need be, she'll step up when justice needs to be served. And again, she's just a very, very radiant deity. She is believed to be the ancestor of the Japan's imperial family. It is said that the power of the family was literally passed down through generations, like from her to them. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later. And then again, she's very deeply associated with Shintoism, which is Japan's native religion. She also represents purity and enlightenment and everything that has to do with the illuminating rays of the sunlight. Okay, I'm going to talk about what she looks like, and then we'll jump into breaking down a little bit more of her roles. So, because she is, like I said, one of her main legends, she's said as being just like so incredibly radiant and beautiful that like her father, her creator, literally immediately just named her ruler of the entire universe because she was that radiant and that illuminating and that beautiful. So the way that she looks and presents, we have so much art and depictions of her, like so much. So we have a pretty good idea of her depiction. It's a very earthial beauty. She's very, very enchanting. She's usually depicted as in a very graceful type of manner and way. She's you almost always picture with long, lustrous black hair, radiant, vibrating, glowing, shining skin, and very, very, very bright eyes. She's almost always seen as being in very flowing kimonos, crafted of the finest silken satins with very, very fine details, and it's just very rich, very elaborate. And you can go and look, you will find countless examples of her image and her visage, but this is typically how you see her. Okay, I'm gonna jump into the chat, see if you guys have any questions, and then we'll break down her roles a little bit. Okay, if you guys have any questions, you can certainly ask them or any comments. Otherwise, we can keep going. Go ahead, honey.
Does she have a consort?
So you see her with Tsukiyomi, the moon god, also like known as her brother, and then after that, I don't think I see her pop up with anybody else. But I will, I'll triple check that. I think that's the only time I really see her paired up with somebody.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Joanna.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. Can you say her name a few more times so it gets into my head? Because every time, like, you say she and her, and that's great, and I'm loving it, and you're awesome, and thank you so much. But if you could just say your name a few more times, because, like, it just will make it go into my head more. Please,
I
and thank
definitely
you.
can. It's
Thank you.
Amaterasu. So Amaterasu. And I will try to say that like every time I start a new section too to keep bringing it up. But Amaterasu. And a lot of times you'll see it Amaterasu Okami. So Amaterasu though, like Amaterasu.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, yeah, thank you, honey, for the link in the study guide. So that's the study guide. Yep, and then you can also go to, let me grab it here. If you go to my website as well, it's been updated and tweaked a little bit since I've taught that class, and there's now images added. So if you want that as well, you can also look at it here too. So there's two different versions, the one I taught class from, and then one that I've edited and tweaked and added images and stuff. So there's two versions for you to look at. Okay, any other questions, guys? Awesome, we'll jump back. Okay. So her role, Amaterasu, is known for her role as the ruler of the higher celestial planes in this realm. She's responsible for bringing light to the world through the sun that she embodies. So it's very, very important that when she is bringing that light to us through the world, she is bringing us our connection to the divine. She's bringing us our connection to the higher celestial realm. She's bringing us their divine messages with her rays of light. She's the one that facilitates that conduit of energy, that change, and all of those messages. She facilitates that bridge of connection. You see that in the representation of the rising and setting sun. She represents all forms of life. Because without her, it would cease to exist. Because she's the ruler of the heavens, she also governs all kami, which if you missed the Shintoism class, kami is the spirit that encompasses literally everything. Inanimate objects, animate objects that are alive, animals, the earth, nature, storms, wind, everything. So for Amaterasu to govern all of Kami, she creates that connection between us with literally everything we ever encounter ourselves with, everything we ever interact with. She is facilitating that connection. So she's very, very, very important in providing that very spiritual, energetic exchange. Okay, let's see. Her tie to the imperial state. So Amaterasu's tie to the imperial state. So in Japanese, the Japanese monarchy, it is actually regarded as the oldest continuous hereditary monarchy in the world. Like its root extends back to the 7th century BC. But like many ancient monarchies, the emperors of Japan, their ancestry they truly believe it comes from a divine source, and that divine source is Amaterasu. They very much believe that every single emperor, that line has come directly from her. So the reason why they believe that is it is said that the first emperor of Japan was actually a direct descendant of Amaterasu. It is believed that Amaterasu very specifically sent her grandson Jimmu to Earth 3,000 years ago to be the first ruler of Japan because she realized that humans needed somebody to kind of rule them in, take care of them, and she needed that physical visage, that physical entity to help facilitate messaging and guidance. So she sent him, and he became the first ruler of Japan, which started this divine family of Japanese emperors. They believe this so fiercely, so strongly. Her body, like, well, who they believe is Amaterasu in their body, she's enshrined in their most sacred tomb. They still keep all of her sacred items. They are passed down from the imperial state. They are literally like treasures of the imperial state. They still have her sacred sword. They still have her jewel from the necklace that she was given and created from, and they still have her mirror, which we'll talk about from her myth. But she is very, very central and very, very important. And that is also like, this also is why she's so revered. Her worship has existed throughout time. It really hasn't changed. And she's very, very central to the way of Japan culture and life, even if they aren't recognizing themselves as practices of Shintoism. So when we talk about Amaterasu and creation, she is believed to be one of the oldest gods in Japanese mythology, and she plays an important role in creating Japan and its people. Her divine light literally illuminated the world, and because it did that, it caused many phenomena. It caused the rising and setting of the sun, and it's said to believe that she caused, in one legend, that she was able to cause the rise of Japan coming from the oceans itself. In others, it's her parents. But in all forms of life literally cease to exist without her. We'll see when I break down that most common myth about her. You'll see in their story how they show that she is a representative of seasons, of sustenance, all of that. Because she's also ruler of the heavens, this higher celestial plane. She's ruler of all kami, which all kami cause creation. They cause all the rice, the wheat, all of that to grow. Therefore, she's very much attached to that energy, and she's very much a guide of that. Amaterasu also is seen as the spiritual guide and protector of Japanese people. There are many festivals held in her honor to represent that, to ask her to be a guide, to ask her to be a protector. She symbolizes hope, prosperity, and purity in that sense. And she gets this role because of her incredibly high status as the kami of the higher celestial plane. Because she is said to rule over that realm and she has domain over that realm, of course, she would end up being the best and most perfect spiritual guide to move people through and to that realm and to be able to get those divine connections and information. So when it comes to Amaterasu and duality, since I'm a gray witch and I live in liminal spaces, every single deity I work with, I look for how they connect to duality. Most people wouldn't even think to do this because she's considered a light deity, a solar goddess. She's considered all of that love and light energy, but every single entity, you, me, every god, every deity, they all live in duality. It is literally the way of the universe. You can't get around it. So I always look for how I can connect them in duality. So how does she represent this? I feel with light deities, like I said, it gets overlooked, but with her, because she's the sun, yes, it is light, it is sustaining, it brings us life. But if it burns too hot, it can smother us, it can stuff us out, it can destroy us, it can kill us. Yes, if you think about it, like we as humans, we love the sun, we need it to survive, but our bodies aren't really meant for it either. Our bodies aren't really meant to be in long exposed times of being in the sun. Our skin burns, we sweat, we can't tolerate low heat. If we get too hot, we overheat, we get dehydrated, and we can die because of that. Like our bodies actually aren't 100% made and meant to survive in the sun. We still need it. We need it to survive, but they're not meant to like thrive in it either. So if you think about that aspect and that duality when it comes to the sun itself, she has the ability to do that. And in so many ways, whether you look at that from a physical aspect and abundance in your life, or you look at that from a spiritual and emotional aspect, your sun burns too bright, you get a big ego. Your pride gets too big. You can go into a road of narcissism. Like if you burn too hot, you burn too bright, you think too much of yourself, you can have negative side effects to that. You can have unwanted things happen to that. When you also look at her in a sense of duality, and in that aspect, light as well, it can illuminate, it can shine brightly, it can allow us to see things. It can open up passages to ways we weren't able to see before, but it also can shine so brightly that it blinds us and it sends us off in the wrong direction. It brings us to an avenue and a place in a cavern we shouldn't have been in and we shouldn't have gone to. So that's another way that you can look at it when it comes to duality and learning how to balance and understand that aspect and like why we need to be anchored and sitting in this as well. Also, when she is the kami that embodies all of the universe and everything in it in the higher celestial plane, she therefore must encompass duality. She has to. There's no way around it. The universe doesn't exist just in light. So she has to be able to step in that duality and show you the duality of all of that. The next aspect and role with her is her importance with the divine feminine. She emphasizes this a lot in the aspects of female power. When we talk about her myth, when she disappears and goes and hides into the cave, I mean, we have nothing that grows. We have no sustenance. We have nothing. The world plunges into the darkness. There's no food. There's no nothing. The humans start to die off. There's no energy. So, like, without her, the world literally can't survive, which shows how important the divine feminine is. Also, I also want to note with this in the divine feminine, more often than not, when you talk about and look at solar deities, solar entities, solar magic, solar energy, most people teach that it's masculine. Most people show you it's a god. Most people tell you that, especially in the Western cultures and Western practice, especially in European cultures, and especially after Christianity showed up. But we very much see the sun tied to this masculine energy. But when you look at and work with Amaterasu, she gets to pull you open and show you that, like, no, 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 no. All energies have the ability to compass all of that. And she shows how important the femininity is for us to survive, for us to thrive. And it also shows, in a sense, the fact that gender can also be fluid, it can bend, it can change. She's so important and she's so powerful. And she's the opposite of what many cultures show. Granted, there are also other cultures that have solar goddesses. There's one that comes from Finland. I mean, we have a couple out of Egypt. I mean, Sekhmet, I just taught about her. She is a goddess and she rules the sun. She's part of being connected to the sun. There's 3 deities connected to the sun in that. So you see it other places, but it isn't as common. One other thing that's also very unique about her, unlike other deities, a lot of times you'll see them associated with one element, maybe 2. Because she's attached to the sun and a solar goddess, yes, she's going to be very much attached to fire, but she also is associated with all elements in nature, which is unique to her. And this is because she's the ruler of a higher celestial plane. She is the ruler goddess of all kami. She represents all that energy. Therefore, she's going to be connected to every single element. And then you also see this representation of her in many different stories. She's responsible for sending forth the 4 winds. She creates typhoons. She creates a lot of different storms. Like, she's responsible for that. She's also associated with the regulation of tides and agriculture and rainfall. So she's very much associated with a lot of different elements in an essence of her role and responsibilities and who she is. And then also we see that coming up in representations in her legends and her myths as well. Okay, before we dive into the myths and stories specifically, I'm going to jump in the chat and see if we have any questions before I go into that. Okay, so I don't see hands coming up. Looks like we're good. Oh, nope, honey popped up. What you got?
Sorry, a little slow. I was just curious, the image that you have on the page that you're on, she's very fiery, the one that's actually behind you. Is she connected to Phoenix at all?
I've seen that. I have not personally worked with her yet, and with a Phoenix, it's my next thing that I'm going to do with her. But I have come across it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. That is literally my next thing that I'm going down my road with her. I've been working with Phoenixes on my own for a little bit now. It's a very interesting energy. So that's my next thing. I'll let you know how it goes. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Okay. Okay. So the mythologies and stories. So the origin story and birth of Amaterasu, there's a couple different versions, as is with every pagan deity. It's my favorite looking at birth stories and parentage and like going through the lines because you're never gonna get one right answer. And I love reading when people try to say there's one answer because there just isn't. But there's three different ones. Two. Sorry, I'm gonna go with two. So, according to the beliefs of Shinto religion, Amaterasu is a child of Izanagi and Izanagi, the two primordial gods responsible for the creation of the Japanese islands. Again, there's debate about that. But Izanagi is recognized as she who invites, while Izanagi is known as he who invites. Amaterasu's birth, like I said, it's shrouded in mysteries. There's multiple versions that are found in quite a few different sacred texts. I'm gonna go back. There's three because I'm talking about three. So there's two different main versions in the Nihon Shoki and in the Kijoki, which is I talk about these by the way. They're the two sacred texts in Shintoism because Shintoism doesn't actually come from a sacred book. There's no book like the Bible or anything that tells you how to practice Shintoism. It's just you have their histories. That's what it is. So those are the two books, the two main books that the Japanese histories are. So we'll go over the different versions of her origin story here. So in the Nihon Shokai, or the Chronicles of Japan, it's the more commonly high esteemed history book, and it dates back to classical Japan. It's the second oldest text in Japanese history, and it's just a lot more detailed and comprehensive than the predecessor, the Kojoki. And so a lot of historians and archaeologists, and they kind of pull to this a little bit more. The reason why it's also seen as a little bit more important because it includes a collection of the genealogy of the imperial family, and then also an incredibly detailed collection of the origins of Japan. So the two versions for Amaterasu's origin is in the first version, divine beings Izanagi and Izanami are said to have descended from heaven and created Japan's islands, mountains, rivers, and seas. They were, however, more concerned with bringing forth the high kami who would rule over all of these lands. So first they brought forth Amaterasu, who emanated light from every horizon, and in their joy, the divine parents set the child to the heaven to be able to reign over the highest celestial plane. And then after that, they created her brother, Tsukiyomi, the moon kami, who came into the existence, and she was set to join Amaterasu and would later also be known as her husband and become her husband. And then soon after, they created her brother Susanoo, who was the storm kami. And he was sent to control the seas and the oceans because they knew that the seas and the oceans were going to be very critical to the island of Japan. So that's the first version. In the second version, they say that sorry. They say that only Izanagi is listed, which is, remember, he who invites. Only he is listed, and he desired to create a deity worthy of governing the universe. And then after careful consideration, he took hold of a white copper mirror in his left hand and then created Amaterasu Amiyokami. And then he took another mirror of the same material in his right hand and used it to produce Tsukiyomi, the moon god. And then Izanagi then turned his head and looked askew. And when he did that, that led to the emergence of Susanoo, the god of storms in the sea. So then the third version, which again comes from the Kojoki, which is the more ancient text. This one was compiled in the first half of the 600 AD CE, and it was actually written by the command of Emperor Timur. It is actually the oldest surviving book of its kind as well, by the way. This is the most widely accepted version of Amaterasu's birth. So this is the most widely accepted version. This is what most practitioners of Shintoism, this is what we acknowledge. So Amaterasu's birth actually involves Izanagi and Izumi creating the islands of Japan and the entire natural universe. And that is until Kubusuchi's birth. So unfortunately, upon emerging from his mother's womb, Kugiochuchi singed his mother, which again was Izanami, and she became gravely wounded. They tried to save her, and despite attempts to save her, she actually succumbed to her injuries and then passed away. So at this point, just pause, stop here. Like at this point, in this version of the story, the divine feminine creator is now dead. So amid his grief, Izanagi, the divine masculine creator, sought to retrieve his beloved from Yomi, which is the underworld. And with a heavy heart, he journeyed to the land of the dead and he searched for her. However, upon finding her, he was devastated to discover that her flesh was already decaying, it was already covered in maggots, and there was nothing that he could do. Despite his pleas, despite his cries, despite everything, he couldn't get Izanami to leave the realm of the dead and to be able to return to the world with him. So then it became this whole big thing, and he barely escaped Yomi. And after he did, he went to go purify himself and bathe him in a nearby river. While he was cleansing himself, remnants of the underworld were clinging to him. He was also, upset and crying. And as he was washing his face, something miraculous occurred when he was rinsing his left eye. Amaterasu is said to literally have just emerged, and she was the goddess of the sun. It is said that he was overcome with just absolute wonder and amazement, and her radiance and brilliance was just so enchanting that he continued to wash his face, and he named her the deity of the universe. It is said while he continued to wash his face that after he rinsed his right eye, that Tsukiyomi, the moon god, fell out and emerged, that he emerged, and then finally when he rinsed his nose, that's when the god of the storms appeared before him. So it is really said when you look at this story and you think about this, and when you look at the richness of this version, like these deities, this like the deity of the storms, deity of the moon, deity of the sun, so Tsukiyomi, Amaterasu, and Susanoo, like they literally came into existence as a result of great sorrow and loss. So that's also, by the way, like why I think Amaterasu is a good representation of duality as well. She is light and radiance and illuminating and joy and all of that. She was born of great sorrow and loss. She's born because like her father was so desperate and upset and distraught by his wife dying that like she was born from a combination of waters of the underworld and his tears. So it really, really represents like a very, very intense mom as well. So now we'll jump into the main story involving Goddess Amaterasu, the most common myth and legend. Also remember, just like with every class, I'm not covering every legend, every myth, every story where she's involved. We would be here for a very long time. I'm breaking down the most popular ones, and then I also don't do that so that you have things to go research, to go learn, and to help develop your relationship with Amaterasu to bring her into your life, because that is the best way to work with a deity, is establish that connection and relationship. And the best way to do that is to get to know them. So we're going to talk about the next, I think I have 2 more myths in here, and then we'll get into how to work with her. So just remember, continue to study. So the main story involving her tells of when she actually hid in the cave due to sadness. So according to the Gojoki, the main book that tells the Shinto myth of creation, Susanoo caused many problems, many problems. And for that reason, he actually was like expelled from the skies. He wasn't like allowed to be up there anymore. And that actually like caused him to get pretty pissed and pretty angry. And so the main problem that he caused in his anger greatly upsets Amaterasu. So let's go over what happens. So they actually even had a very long-standing rivalry between the two of them. And he was made to leave the heavens by order of Izanagi, and he went to actually go bid farewell to Amaterasu before he did this. Because they had this long-standing rivalry, Amaterasu was suspicious. So he's like, okay, fine, I'll propose a challenge to prove my sincerity. She accepted, and the challenge was that each of them were going to take an object of the others, and they were going to birth gods and goddesses from it. So Amaterasu birthed 3 women from Susanoo's sword, while he birthed 5 men from her necklace. And then she claimed that the gods were hers because they were born from her necklace. So she decided, I win the challenge. Even though, like, really, technically, like, he should have won. But whatever, like, he let it go and they were content for a time, but it literally was festering with him. And he became restless and he became pissed and he started to rampage about it because no, like, I won, like, and you doubted my sincerity and like this whole big thing. And so he actually just like went on this rampage and starts destroying all of her rice fields and just starts destroying everything. He even like picks up like a pony and like a horse and just like chucks it at her, and it destroys her loom. It also kills one of her attendants, which just pisses her off to no end. She's also really, really upset, really sad. That was a beloved attendant of hers. She loved that attendant, and she disagrees with his behavior, so she runs off and goes and hides in Ama no Iwato, which is no translates to Heavenly Rock Cave. So she literally goes and hides in Heavenly Rock Cave. Because of this, the sun hides. Sun's nowhere. Like, it doesn't come out, doesn't illuminate the earth, nothing grows, there's no vegetation, cold takes over, there's no warmth, and the gods can't figure out how to reverse the situation without her. They try, there's nothing that they can do. They can't figure out how to persuade her to come out. They've tried. They're getting fearful of eternal darkness. They're getting fearful what's going to happen to them and the humans. So the god of wisdom, Omiokani, has a super, super great idea. They organize this party at the entrance of the cave, and they put a mirror and they raise a mirror right in front of the cave so that Amaterasu can see her own reflection. And then Goddess Uzumi decides to dance outside the cave. So she's dancing, she's happy, she ends up taking her clothes off, like exposing her breasts, like she's dancing, she's being radiant, she's fun. She recites some verses at the entrance of the cave.
You will wait till I.
Sorry about that, guys. She like is dancing radiant. The gods are having fun at the cave. They recite some verses, which literally just say like, "Come, rejoice. Our hearts are happy. My breasts and limbs are out. Like, come and rejoice. Like, have fun." And like they're singing and dancing. They're having fun. She decides that Amaterasu is like, "Okay, I'm gonna spy outside the cave. I'm gonna look." While doing so, she ends up seeing her image reflected in the mirror. She is so dazzled by her own beauty. She's so dazzled by herself and she's so enchanted by who she is. She decides to leave the cave, join the party, and then all the gods are singing her praises. They're dancing. They're so excited. They're praising her. They're telling her how beautiful and lovely and great she is and how much she was missed. And then they literally even carry her back to her golden palace so that she can illuminate the world again. This story tells a lot of things. It talks about the birth of dance and music. It talks about how important Amaterasu is for so many reasons. It talks about the importance of the sun for sustenance and the changing of seasons. Just so many things are steeped up and built into it. Okay. So I'm gonna jump into the chat before I jump into the next. Actually, no, this next one's pretty quick. Let me finish out the legends I have in here. So another important story that we talk about here, it's found in the Nihon Shoki, and it tells a legend between Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu. So Tsukiyomi and Amaterasu, they served as the deities of, heaven. They were the husband and wife. They were sun and moon. They ruled that realm, like that's what they represent. One day, Ukimochi, which is the goddess of food, invited Amaterasu over for a feast. She wasn't able to go though, so she sent Tsukiyomi instead. Tsukiyomi meets Okimochi and she prepares a banquet for him, creating all of her food. She's the goddess of food. So how she creates it is it literally comes out of her orifices. It comes out of her mouth. It comes out of her ears. It comes out of her nose. Like she just grows it, and that's where it comes. Tsukiyomi finds that incredibly disgusting and then just decides, I'm just going to behead her. I'm just gonna kill her. I'm literally just gonna take out my sword. I'm gonna behead her. I'm gonna kill her. This is gross. You're feeding me food that was coming out of your orifices. Like that's what he decided to do. That was his reaction. So that made Amaterasu like super, 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 super upset. She was deeply saddened and she refused to ever be anywhere near Tsukiyomi again. They were no longer going to be together. They were separated. Like he was said that he needed to leave the heavens, and this is why like those two took control over the sky separately. This is why we have the moon. This is why we have the sun. This is why we have day. This is why we have night. So that is the other important myth and legend that has to do with her. Okay. I'm gonna jump into the chat here, see if you guys have any questions about her myths and legends. There are a lot about her. Those are just the two most popular common ones. Go ahead, honey.
I know there's more myths to look up, but from the main ones, it sounds like that she's not very like romance oriented like a lot of other deities. Could she, since her lack of interest in romance, could she also be called upon for um like as a deity for asexuals or aromantics? You know, someone
Yeah,
that's for them?
I could see that. I could see that. Definitely with her. Like, I don't like, even with her being attached to sun, like, I don't feel like a lot of sexual energy steeping from her. Like, she's very much about purity and she's very much about, like, yeah. So I definitely could see that. I haven't personally done that or I haven't seen that, but I totally understand it. It would make perfect sense. Because, yeah, unlike a lot of other goddesses, she's not steeped in that love and that romance and that countless different stories with deities about relationships and being cheated on. Like that's not common with her. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. That's that again, honey, thank you. You gave me an insight I didn't think about before.
Okay, well, thank you. And go Amaterasu.
Yeah, I did. Go ahead, Joanna.
Oh, I just wanted to, and thank you. This is fantastic. And I just wanted to remind everyone to put their mute buttons on so you don't get distracted.
Thank you. I keep jumping in and muting people too, just to make sure. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. Okay. Anybody got anything else? Okay, let's jump back in. Okay, so festivals and rituals. Since she's a leading figure in Japanese spiritual and cultural tradition, she's all over the place. So many devotees, many practitioners of Shintoism, they seek blessings from her and guidance from her. There are many, many, many shrines and temples to her across Japan. The main shrine, which is the Grand Shrine of Ise, is the prominent shrine dedicated to Amaterasu in Ise in Western Honshu. The shrine is believed to enshrine the body of Amaterasu itself, and it's considered the holiest site for Shintoists. Like this is like this is like their Mecca. This is their Jerusalem. Like this is their holiest site. Like this is on my bucket list to get to go to and experience. Like if I get to do one pilgrimage in my life, it is this one. It is very, very customary that like practitioners will take and believers of Shinto will take at least take a pilgrimage at least once in their life to this shrine. This shrine, it is very customary that it's rebuilt every 20 years on the inner parts of it, the inner shrine. Every 20 years, it's rebuilt per Shinto tradition to make sure it remains pure, it remains new, to make sure that it's honored, to make sure it's all of that because a big part, remember, Shintoism is purity, it's purification, it's cleansing, it's making sure that you're restoring balance as often as you can, and they do the like this shrine, like it's key. This shrine is so important that visitors can worship outside only the southern gate, and only priests and members of the imperial family can ever enter in. the shrine into the innermost sanctum. It's a very, very significant place. There are also other significant shrines to worship her. There's one in Amaniawato and then Atsuta. Amiawato shrine is located in the cave that is said to be where she actually hid. So we literally have a shrine in Japan, like literally at that cave. And then Atsuta shrine is actually believed to house the sword that she passes down from her grandson to her grandson. That's the sign of the imperial family. So it's literally a shrine that enshrines that specific sword. And she's very, very important, like I said, to the imperial family. The imperial regalia is still passed down. It's still enshrined in those shrines. It's still held as wisdom, and they're still kept in the imperial palace. Like they're still kept in the imperial palace. Her items are still used at coronations. They're still used for important rituals. They're still used for important ceremonies. Like they're very her worship is very much still honored and very present. Because mirrors are so important, there also are mirrors in many, many of the shrines. And then in Japan, there are annual street processions to honor Amaterasu on July 17th and at the winter solstice on the 21st to commemorate her emerging from the cave and bringing light and warmth back into the world. So we've talked a lot about who she is, how she's been worshipped, her stories, her legends. So how do you work with her now? How do you work with her today? How do you add her to your life, to your magic and your practices? Well, first, you can use correspondences. If you've never been with me before, what is a correspondence? A correspondence is an item or a symbol that's meant to connect you to a very specific energy through its representation. It otherwise can be seen as an item to respect, to honor, to venerate. You can use it to connect to an archetype energy, to the zodiac energy the moon's in, to the moon itself, to a planet. You can do it to an energy, a color, and a specific deity, like we're going to talk about now. So the correspondences that you can use to connect to her are going to be the sun, the higher celestial plane, and the universe itself. Animals that are seen very often connected to her are the raven and the white wolf. Horses, that comes from the myths with Susanoo. Snakes, because snakes are very much tied to the universe and infinity. Like, I don't know any deity that's attached to the universe that isn't attached to a snake. This is controversial, though, by the way. Like, if you go through research, like, it's very much, like, it's a huge debate on if she's represented by snakes and connected to snakes or not. And then sometimes you will also see kitsunes connected to her because she's the ruler of all kami, and kitsunes are very, very sacred kami themselves. But most often or not, kitsunes are attached to Anario kami, not specifically her, but you will sometimes see them show up in representations with her and show up in a couple different legends and stories. Element's going to be the fire, but she also is uniquely connected to all elements, which we talked about. Her sex is going to be the divine feminine. Symbols are going to be the sun, rooster, crows, pheasants, ravens, mirrors, swords, the infinity symbol, horses, light, radiance, the universe, spirit, all of that. Colors are going to be yellow, gold, orange, and red. I have more connection with gold than I do with yellow, and I have more connection with orange than I do with red. But work with her and feel with her how you need to, and follow your intuition. Themes: the sun, the higher celestial plane, queen of the kami, the universe, the light, the imperial family, the nation of Japan itself, joy, happiness, laughter, dance, vitality, energy, protection, wisdom, strength, nourishment, purity, health, abundance, radiation, unity, blessings, community, kingship. Like, she encompasses so much. Chakras that you can work with that will kind of help connect you with her. Your solar plexus, very much so. Also your crown chakra, because she's connected to the universe and enlightenment, all of that. And then your root chakra, because she's connected to her sustenance. And then herbs: heliotrope, sandalwood, rose, lemon, bergamot, rice, chamomile, marigold, sunflowers, juniper, sakura cherry trees, and then stones and crystals are going to be sunstones: gold, danbarite, citrine, tiger's eye, yellow jasper, amber. I have amber and carnelian are my two favorites with her, but carnelian and then rose quartz as well. And then metal, she's very, very, very strongly attached to gold. I don't usually like 100% always make metals like a part of correspondences, so I don't always work with them, but with her I do. Like she's very much attached to gold. Okay, so why work with her to begin with? I've talked about a lot about how amazing she is, but she's able to help bring joy back into your life if you need it. If you are overwhelmed, if you are stuck in depression, she can help pull that laughter and that fun and that dance and just letting go and just like being like, I'm so beautiful. Like I am enough to make myself happy and sing. She'll help you relax and enjoy the little things in life and help you just be in the moment. She can also spark creativity in you. She can spark your sense of purpose and identity. She can illuminate like all of the best qualities of yourself that there are to you. She can really shine it bright and help bring that all forward for you. And then because she's so steeped in Shintoism, she really helps do it in a very pure and cleansing way, because it embodies her with that aspect and that way of living. So key ways that you can work with her. Everyone's relationship with deities is different. I talk about that every class I teach and every time that I teach. So follow your intuition, follow what's feeling. But remember, this is all about creating a very personal relationship with this deity. You are trying to become close, personal friends. You're trying to create this connection to come to them for guidance, for assistance, for all of that. So, however that feels to you, follow it and do that. Make sure, though, you do it respectfully, with reverence, and with gratitude, especially with who she is. She encompasses a lot for you, more so than any other deity I think I've ever presented so far. So make sure gratitude is very much steeped in how you approach her. So, first way to get to know her and build your relationship with her, study who she is. How do you get to know your friends that you meet in everyday life? How do you get to know people that you meet at work? You ask them questions about themselves. You get to know who they are. So do that with her. Read her stories, read her myths, read her legends. Learn about the other kami she's connected to, like Tsukiyomi and Susanoo. Learn about her parents. Learn about and look at the brilliant art that she is a centerpiece of throughout centuries in Japan. You can study the culture of Japan. You can study Shintoism and the religion that's central to Japan so you can understand really what she taught those people and how she teaches them to encompass and behave in everyday life. That's how you build a true relationship with her, is getting to know all of that about her and who she is. Next, you can create a kamidana in your home to connect to her and honor her. A kamidana is a miniature Shinto shrine that's designed for home worship. So in a sense, it's very similar to an altar, like you've dedicated to any other deities that I've talked to you about before. So you can have a kamidana for her in your home and specifically dedicated to her where she is enshrined at. If you would like to know how to create a kamidana, check out that blog post and that link that was put in the site, and that's on my site, modgepodgemystic.com. I go over very detailed how to do that. Offerings. Everybody likes receiving presents. We all like receiving presents. So do deities. Amaterasu is no different. So especially since she's a revered deity and she's incredibly central to every part of Japanese life and culture, she loves getting presents. You don't have to give them to her every day, but when you feel it's appropriate, you can place these offerings at your kamidana or when you're performing any work to connect to her, like meditation, prayer, visualization. Some of the best offerings for her are going to be rice cakes, cooked rice that's dyed with saffron, paper origami figurines, grain or rice as an offering inside of a brass or gold offering dish or bowl, a magic mirror that you have specifically dedicated to her, sandalwood oil or incense, or a special cloth like silk that you have dedicated to her. That's a great offering for her. Another way to connect to her is greeting her at sunrise. So Amaterasu is everywhere through the sunlight, even on cloudy days. Like she comes through, she comes down, she graces us with her warmth, her kindness, her sustenance, and her presence. So you don't really have to summon a goddess who's everywhere all the time and always present. But it is very, very common to make sure you greet her at sunrise, you greet her when you awake, you greet her in your mornings. And you can do this multiple different ways. But you can do this also by reflecting her light with a mirror through the rooms of your house, by letting her enter your home, making sure you're also opening up any windows to letting her shine through, and actually saying the greeting to her and greeting her. Another way that you can work with her is by using mirror guidance and mirror work and working with mirror magic. So another way of summoning her can be done by going to a mirror and using to summon her and ask for advice. She's the goddess of the sun because mirrors are also very central to her myth and her legends. It is a sacred item to her, even for the imperial family. You can use them to light up your mind and to really overshadow any illusions that may be really blocking your path. To do this ritual, it's really, really simple. You really just make sure that you take a mirror that you have in your home that you want to use. You bow before the mirror as if like you're greeting Amaterasu, you're greeting the goddess. And then you look into your own eyes and you call Amaterasu 8 times. That's the number of deity, that's why. And then you concentrate and you listen to the words of the goddess. So you concentrate and you listen very clearly to the words that she is going to bring to you, either visually or you're going to hear them, or the images that you'll see in that mirror. If you want to learn more how to work with mirrors, I already taught a class on that, and you can watch it on the YouTube channel, and the link's in the study guide too for you. Another way to connect to her is sunbathing. She's a solar goddess. She is the goddess of the sun. So what other way to connect to her than literally soaking up that energy, allowing that magical energy of the sun to literally soak into who you are and to just really, really like bask in the vitality of it. And then along with that, another way to connect with her is specifically performing solar magic. She's a solar deity. So super obvious way to connect her would be performing any kind of solar magic. There are countless ways to perform solar magic, from meditating underneath the sun, to making sun water, to drawing down the sun, which is similar to drawing down the moon. There's so many different ways. If you want to learn more about solar magic, I did already write a pretty extensive guide on my blog, modpodmystic.com, and I linked it here for you. And I'm also teaching a class on that here at Divination in about a month, I think. So you can learn more then too, but that's a great way to connect to her. Since Amaterasu is the deity of the sun, and she's the reason for all of our sustenance to survive and the reason why we thrive as humans, she's amazing to work with for abundance. So you can call on her when doing abundance spells, workings or rituals. They'll be boosted, they'll be amplified. Her and Lakshmi are like my 2 favorites for abundance work. If you want to learn more how to work with the energy abundance, many different kinds of spells, workings, and things that you can do, I wrote a very extensive guide on the energy abundance and prosperity already on my website. I have that linked in the study guide for you as well, so you can look at that. Other ways you can work with her: meditation, visualization, and dream work. This is one of the best ways that you can work with any divine energy. So one of the best ways that you can channel any divine energy. So the same goes for with her. These practices allow you to open yourself up to receive and connect that divine energy in a very clear, intuitive, and transformative way. There are countless guided meditations that you can do on YouTube. I've done many that you can look at on YouTube. You can always send me a message and we can set up like one-on-ones to get that done. I offer that as a service. So there's many different ways to do this. Whenever you do a guided meditation, always make sure though that like afterwards you journal whatever you encountered. You can have a journal, a separate book of shadows, or a grimoire, whatever it is, so that you can reflect, you can see if there's patterns, you can look more clearly for messages to figure out what you're supposed to divine if it was unclear. So you have that ability to do that. When you're doing this, try to make sure as well that you're in a sacred space. You can create a sacred container that you can be not interrupted. You can be left alone so you can receive those clear messages. I did in the study guide put out and write a meditation for you to connect to her. So you can read through that and use that. If you need to like record yourself so you can listen to it, you can certainly do that. But I did write one out for you to be able to use. Another very powerful way to connect to a deity is through prayer. This is incredibly common in Japan for devotees and practitioners of Shintoism to utter very heartfelt prayers to Amaterasu, specifically for blessings of prosperity, health, and guidance. So it's very, very common. This is a great way in order to create that energetic connection. You can pray not out loud, but I do recommend trying to make sure that you get that out loud. It creates more energy with that vibration, with that movement. It sets a stronger anchor of intention. But you can also not do it out loud as well. It's totally up to you. I do have two prayers in the study guide for you as well. The second one is the most well-known one that most people use, and I find all over the place. So that I would recommend taking a look at. Another way that you can connect with her is moving your body and doing it through dance. So Amaterasu is a solar deity, and she's the kami of the entire universe, which makes her a very vital, energetic deity. She is all about that vitality, that energy that grows, that creates, that makes our sustenance keep going. It makes the seasons change. Like, it's very vibrant energy. So how do you connect to like very, very vibrant, vital energy? You move, you get it moving, you get those energies moving, you get it circulating. And because her myth that she is very much credited as part of being the creation of dance and music, doing dance is going to make that a little bit more potent. It's going to connect her a little bit more directly. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Like, man, I'm an awful dancer. I look ridiculous in anything I do, but I do it anyways. It just really, really helps open up and move that energy and connect you also specifically to that solar plexus space. Another great way to work with her is light work and energy work. So since Amaterasu is a solar deity and a light deity, and the comedy of the universe and the higher celestial planes, she's really great for working with your own energy, the energy of the environment around you, and the energy of the universe and collective as a whole. She has the ability to guide you because she's your spiritual guide to your sacred contracts, to your higher self, to the divine in a very, very intense and meaningful way. Unlike when working with dark goddesses, you're shown your shadows. She illuminates the brightest and best parts of yourself and shows you how brightly you actually already shine. And she really, really brings that to your forefront. She doesn't show you the things that are hidden that need to be dealt with so you can shine brightly. She shows you the things that are already there, that are already shining so brightly, and allows you to just bask in that and to understand how truly divine and amazing you already are. So to learn more about how to do that, how to work with energy, how to work with energy as a whole, moving around your body, I already taught a class on that as well. It should be posted soon. Otherwise, there's a link to my blog post about that as well in the study guide. We have two more ways to work with her, and then we will jump to questions, and then I will actually bring you guys to meet her. So pilgrimages, if you can, if it's realistically possible, try to do a pilgrim to her grand shrine in Izanagi. These journeys symbolize very strong devotion to a spiritual unity with Amaterasu. If it's at all realistically possible, try to make that happen some point in your life. This is one I have, like I said, I haven't experienced it yet, but it's literally if I get to go anywhere in the world, this is always my answer. Every time. I never answer any other way. It's this. This is the place where I want to be. I would love to do this. Next is sacred objects. So it's very, very common in Japan that worshippers create ornate talismans that are also known as omamori, and they are said to possess Amaterasu's divine presence. They then bring and use those talismans to bring protection and good luck to the owners. So that is another thing that you can do. That's going to be difficult to do if you're not in Japan, if you're not in that part of the world, because like I talked about my class on Shintoism, they don't propagate. So even in the United States, I know of 2 shrines that exist, and one opened in the last year and a half. So it may be more difficult, but you can get them online. Just make sure that you're looking at the resources, make sure they're actually coming from a shrine, so they're actually, divinely blessed by Amaterasu's presence, and they're actually connected to her. And then the last thing that you connect to her is make sure that you're actually living in accordance with the practices of Shintoism and the Shinto culture, the Shinto beliefs. Amaterasu is a very key essential figure to Shintoism and the Japanese culture. So if you encompass the principles and the affirmations of that belief system, you're going to connect to her, the energy that she represents, and the way of the life that she believes the universe needs to exist within. So learning those, learning how to encompassing them and having them be a part of your life, having being part of your life in the best way that you can, in the most realistic ways you can, and as often as you can is going to be a great way to connect to her. Again, if you want to learn more about that, I already taught a class. The link to the blog post there. Honey already gave you the link to the study guide as well. And then part 2 for that class is happening in a few weeks, so you can get a recap and learn more in that class too, to really, really open it up and learn with her. So, in conclusion, when it comes to Amaterasu, she has been a very revered and guiding force since her arrival into this world, like literally since her arrival into this world. And even after thousands and thousands of years, she continues to shine as a symbol of absolute hope, of inspiration. She is a central key figure to Japanese culture, to the Japanese way of life, to their mythology, to the Shintoism belief system. She has existed throughout time like almost no other deity I've seen. When you call on her, you can call on her when you're feeling overwhelmed and worried. She'll help you when you're feeling down. She'll bring sparks back into your life. She'll help you see the bright side of things. She's really is very, very powerful, illuminating light that can also guide you to the higher celestial plane. She can really illuminate her rays of light onto you to provide you all that you need and to show you truly how magnificent you really are. So there's just so much to her. So I'm going to jump in the chat, see if you guys have any questions, and then we can get to the guided work. Go ahead, Eddie. I was just waiting for you to raise your hand.
Two things. One, I do not mean this in a bad way. I just mean this in a, it kind of sounds like it. She kind of sounds egotistical.
Yes.
Like how she, yeah, like how she tricked the one god into winning, or into her winning. So can you also call on her for like to build your self-confidence, and when you know you have too much confidence where it becomes egotistical, she can kind of help you see the right parts to concentrate on, not everything.
I totally agree with all of that. 1,000% yes. Also, the other, when you brought that up, it sparks the other part of it that I kind of forgot to mention. She can also be kind of childish. If you look at her reactions, when people make her upset, what does she do? She runs and she hides away like a little child.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
you could also call on her with that aspect. So if you're having issues with like knowing how to confront and deal with people and you've been acting kind of childish, she can kind of help show you that like that's not that look at the consequences to your actions when you do that.
Okay. Thank you. That makes sense.
Does that answer your first part of your question too?
Yeah, it does.
Awesome. Yes, she's
Okay.
definitely very egotistical, like 1,000% yes. Yeah. When I need to like go into something and like know that like I am the shit, like yeah, she's the one that I make sure that I have with me.
Okay. I'll have to remember that.
Yes, she's great for that.
Yeah. Is there a certain type of dance that's tied to her?
This you can there are traditional like festival dances that are specifically tied to her, but those are saved for the priests and for the shrine maidens that are trained in actually performing those ritualistic dances. So for your purpose, you can just do whatever you like.
Okay. Any particular songs to go with the dancing?
No,
That are tied to her? No?
I
Just
would say just
anything?
go with what you want to go with. I mean, a lot of times when I'm working with her, like I'll throw on more of like Japanese meditation music or traditional like Japanese music. But other times I throw on Halsey, and I'm jamming out to a Halsey song. So it really just depends on like how I'm feeling and what you need.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, guys? Okay, so it doesn't look like we have any questions or comments. So now is the guided work part. It's where I bring you into a sacred container and you are able to meet with her, maybe get some information from her, some guidance from her. So if you've not been with me before, what we typically do now is my camera goes off until we're done with guided work. I don't want to be a distraction to you. I want you to focus on my words and what you're hearing and saying. But for the first like 3 to 5 minutes, you guys, it's now time for you to do what you need to. Everybody has different words for it, but whether it's, entering a meditative state, dropping in, sacred space, I prefer sacred container. That's what I use. Whatever it is, the verbiage that you use, now's the time for you to do that. If you work with crystals, you want to use any crystals that I put in the study guide, you can. If you want to have any incense lit, you can. If you want to get a candle, you can. So it's going to be totally up to you and what you want to do. But now's the time for you to do that. When I come back and you hear my voice, I make sure that you're centered and you're grounded, and we go right into me casting a circle, and then I bring you into the work. So as long as there's no other questions or anything like that, my camera's gonna go off. I'm gonna mute myself, and I want you guys to start creating your sacred container. Have everybody take a few deep breaths in and out. And as you inhale in and out, as you inhale, you're going to pull in all of your energy so you feel grounded and whole. You feel centered and present in this moment. I call to the spirits and guides to each and every soul in this circle, and I ask that you encircle us in protection, guidance, connection, and wisdom. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the 4 directions, and I thank you so very much for turning your gaze towards us this afternoon. And I ask for you to join us. I call to the direction of east and the element of air, for you are the breath in my lungs and the reason I can breathe. You bring transformation and wisdom on your winds of change each and every time you blow through my life. I honor your breath, your power of change, and that you are the breath of all life. And I ask you, element of air, to hold the eastern gateway this afternoon. I call to the direction of south and the element of fire. You are our passion and our spark and the embers in our soul for motivation. You teach us to burn and blaze brightly like the sun and to illuminate your light on all that there is. You, dear fire, are a guide in the darkness and a warmth to those who seek your shelter. I call to you, dear fire, for you teach us to have passion and desire, but you also show us when we need to use our flames to burn those who need to be taught a lesson. I ask you, element of fire, to hold the southern gateway this evening, and I thank you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of west and the element of water. You teach us, dear water, that your depths are so very vast and deep, and always relentlessly moving with your tides. You can cause us to either drown or to float, or you can just give us life. I call to you, dear element of water, for you teach us to swim with grace when we need to float with the current of life and the ebb and flow. You teach us, dear water, to dive into the depths of our emotions when you call. I call to you, dear element of water, for you are the life force for each and every living being, and you are the reason that Earth is so very unique. I call to you, element of water, and I thank you so very much for holding the Western Gateway this afternoon. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of north and the element of earth. You are the home of every living being. You are the resting place of every ancestor, of every line, of every generation, of every species. You are where we all begin and where we all end. You, dear Earth, represent the populated cities and the vast uncharted territories yet to be found. I call to you, element of Earth, and I ask you to hold the Northern Gateway this afternoon. I call to our guardians and gatekeepers, spirit guides, interdimensional beings, and elementals, and any other entities willing to protect, guide, and assist us this afternoon. I ask you to hold the gateways above, below, and all around, and I thank you so very much for holding them. Amen. Aho, so moved it is. As you take a big, deep breath in and you inhale, you feel the settling of the circle around you. You feel the energy locking in and holding you in place. You feel the guidance, the wisdom, the connection, and the protection. You take a big, deep breath in, and on the exhale, you release any doubt, fear, and trepidation. And as you sit in the energy of the circle surrounding you, we call to you, dear Mother Amaterasu, Goddess of the Sun, Keeper of the higher celestial plane, holder of the title of Queen of the Kami and Lady of the Heavens. We call to you and we ask you to be here to guide us with your illuminating rays of sunshine and light. So allow us to blossom, to bloom, to grow, to provide sustenance for our transformation and our enlightenment and our wisdom. We ask you to provide us with guidance, and protection to show us how your rays can both burn and sustain life. We ask you to be here with us this afternoon as we continue on this trip with guidance and reverence, respect, and gratitude. As you take a big, deep breath in, you pull in all of the energy surrounding you. And on an inhale, you feel it enter all the way into your solar plexus, centered in the center of your belly. You feel that energy swirling and moving in an energetic yellow golden color, full of vitality, strength, and passion, full of sustenance and nourishment and growth. And as you feel the swirling energy in your solar plexus, you notice that energy has been filling up the room around you and expanding and growing, bringing you closer to this illuminating yellow energy and light. These golden rays of sunshine and brightness. And you take a step forward to enter that light, to enter that golden energy. And as you step forward and through, you feel calm, you feel joy, you feel grounded and centered in who you are. You feel laughter and happiness. You feel connection to divinity. And as you step through, you enter a new sacred container in space. And as you look around, you take a big, deep breath in. You take in all the sights and smells and sounds. Do you notice a field of flowers and sunshine spilling out? The cave in the distance? Do you see rice paddies blowing in the wind around you? Do you smell cherry blossoms and nature and dirt? Do you feel the warmth of the bright illuminating sun rays on your skin, filling you with energy and joy and happiness? Do you feel it shining on your face, illuminating all that you are? As you take a big, deep breath in and you continue to take in this sacred container you've entered, you remember that bright, vibrant yellow energy still swirling around you and filling you with vitality, creativity, pride, passion, knowledge, and wisdom. It's burning bright and warm, and it's there to comfort you and guide you while you're in this sacred container in space. As you become more accustomed to this space, you start to move forward and move around. You take it all in and you feel around you. You feel the meadow and the grass, the rice pads. You feel the dirt and the sakura cherry blossoms and the barks of the tree. You feel the sun on your skin just absorbing and making you want to laugh and move your body and dance. As you take a big deep breath in and you continue to dance and move around in the basking, bright, illuminating rays of the sun, you feel a pull towards that cave that you noticed before. And you start to dance and work your way over there. As you do so, you take some big, deep breaths in, and you remember that vibrant yellow light swirling in your solar plexus chakra, to help you be anchored in who you are and your creativity, to feel courage and strength as you continue to walk towards that cave. As you get closer and closer and closer, you feel a mix of both joy and grief. You feel a mix of laughter and tears. You feel a mix of joy and sadness. You continue to walk to the cave until you get to the entrance, and as you enter, you notice that sitting on the rock right inside the cave is a mirror. It seems peculiar for a mirror to be there, but you know that it just feels right. As you step forward, you look at the mirror, you feel it, you touch it, you notice its shape and its size, and you feel this pulsing energy coming off of it. It feels full of life and joy and vitality and strength, full of wisdom and intuition and guidance. It's this very primal, raw, divine power, highest power you've ever felt. You lean forward and you touch the mirror and you feel and notice the glass start to shimmer and change. As it does this, an image appears. And in it, there appears to be an image of a woman. She's ethereal and enchanting and alluring, with long, black, flowing, lustrous hair. Her eyes just shine so bright, almost to the point where you have to look away. They just sparkle with intensity and illuminating light, and confidence, and joy, and laughter, and beauty. As you continue to look at the image rippling within the mirror, you ask yourself, who are you? And you wait to receive an answer. As you receive your answer, she informs you that she is Amaterasu. She is the goddess of the sun, the goddess of alchemy, the goddess of the higher celestial plane. And this mirror is her sacred item. She uses it to communicate with you and others, and this cave is the place where she hid in her deepest, darkest time, when she was drowning in sorrow and grief and fury. This mirror is the sacred item that helped her remind herself of her beauty and who she is, and allowed her to come back into the world to provide sustenance and joy and laughter for all. As you hear her message and you take it in, you take a big, deep breath and you feel the vitality of her energy, the illuminating rays of who she is. You feel the joy and the power and the strength and the wisdom and the knowledge and the connection to every single entity that has existed. You feel that swirling to you and around you, and you understand the presence that you are in, the beauty, the enchantment, and the power. You take a big, deep breath in to pull some of that powerful energy into you and into your solar plexus chakra. And you sit and continue to look at her image. Whenever you feel ready and comfortable, you ask Amaterasu if she has any divine wisdom or messages she'd like to communicate with you. This mirror is a way for her to show you your reflection, to reflect back your bright, illuminating rays of light, the divinity that you already are, the beauty that you are, the enchantment and alluring creature that you are. You sit and you wait and you stare and you look and you see every image she portrays to you, every message she portrays to you. You listen to hear what she has to say. You feel the energy moving around you in your body. You take a big, deep breath in and out, and you accept all the message she has to shine upon you. As you receive this message, you remember to take big, deep breaths in and out and center that message, that clarity, that divinity, that wisdom, that vitality into that swirling energy that she's been guiding you with around you and into that solar plexus chakra space. She's there to support and guide and move that energy for you. It's where this message will be remembered. It's where it will be stored. It's where it is for you to come back to. As you take a big, deep breath in and out and you've received her message, you ask her if there's anything else she has left to provide you. And now's the time for you to ask anything else that you have left. You can give her thanks and reverence. You can make plans to see her again. You can create a connection with her and her mirror and her cave and the sun. You can thank her for the beauty that she has illuminated onto you, the reminder that she's given you of your divine connection to who you are, your vitality, your strength, your pride, your beauty, your power, your ability to create. As you thank her and make plans to see her again, you watch as her image disappears from the mirror in front of you. And it goes back to the plain, ornate glass and mirror that was here when you entered the cave. If you had knelt down or sat down, you can stand up. Take a big, deep breath, and you feel yourself full of that energy, that vitality, that confidence, that purity in who you are and your divinity and your beauty. You feel vibrant and glowing and radiating from light from your solar plexus in and out. And you continue to step forward and out of the cave, back into the meadow with the rice and the flowers and the grass and the sakura trees. Everything around you is brighter and more vibrant. It's louder and so much more full of joy. You feel your body just rhythmically moving to the ebbs and flow of nature around you and the dancing with the joy that is nature, the essence of the kami, the essence of the universe, the essence of the sun radiating down on your skin. You feel this vibrant energy and you hang on to this moment to remember it, to move forward, going forward in your life every day, this week, this month, this year. You remember the details of this place, this grove, this cavern, the trees, the rice, the sun. You remember this sacred container that you can come back to in that bright orange, yellow, vital, gold, burning energy that's Amaterasu. She is always around you. She exists in everything. She's there for you to pull at those rays to illuminate whenever you need. As you take a big, deep breath, you start to follow that yellow energy that's been swirling around you this whole time still. And you let it guide you back out of the cavern, out of the meadow, into your solar plexus energy chakra space, full of being peaceful and calm and joy, full of confidence and creativity and vitality and strength. And you step back out into your sacred container and your space. You take a few deep breaths in and out, and you take a few moments to sit with the experience you just had, to notice the feelings in your body, to notice any messages that you were meant to remember, and any feelings emotionally you feel right now. You take a big deep breath in to commit it to your memory and your energetic system, to notate it whenever you're ready to open your eyes and come back to the present space. Now that we're back at the present space, I'm going to ask you to take a few deep breaths in and out as I close our circle and thank Amaterasu for her guidance. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of north and the element of earth. I thank you so, so, so very much for holding the northern gateway this evening. And I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of west and the element of water. I thank you so, so very much for holding the western gateway, and I release you. I call to the guardians and gatekeepers of the direction of east and the element of air. I thank you so very much for holding the eastern gateway, and I release you. I call the guardians and gatekeepers in the direction of south and the element of fire. I thank you so very much, and I release you. I call to all guardians, gatekeepers, interdimensional beings, elementals, and especially dear beloved sun goddess, Kami of all, ruler of the higher celestial plane, Amaterasu. I thank you so, so, so very much for your wisdom, your guidance, and your protection this afternoon. I thank you, all of you, for holding the gates above, below, and all around. And I release you. Amen. Aho, smoked it is. Okay, guys, we are done with our guided work. I never make anybody talk about it if they don't want to, because working with a deity is totally up to you. It's very, very personal, and I never expect to hear anything about it. If anybody wants to make comments, give feedback, talk about it, you can put it in the chat, you can unmute yourself, talk about it. It's totally up to you. Otherwise, I hope that was helpful. I hope that you guys were able to experience her. I hope you're able to meet her. I tried to show her to you in a couple different senses. I tried to connect you to a few of her different places and one of her sacred items. So hopefully, like, that was a pretty good connection. And yeah, so if anybody has anything, now's the time. And again, thank you so much for being with me too, guys. I'm always honored. I'm so, so honored that people allow me to be a guide for them. Go ahead, honey.
So this one was weird.
Okay. What was weird about it?
One, it was really hard to get into it. My mind's kind of bouncy, but normally, even when my mind is bouncy, I can get into the meditations, like this. But this time, it stayed pretty bouncy until a little after a time when you said we were in the field, because I couldn't actually picture myself anywhere, and all I saw was like yellowish white fog or smoke just everywhere. And then finally, when I was actually somewhere, I was in the field, but the fog and smoke was still all around everywhere. And instead of dancing, I just laid down and kind of sunbathed there, I guess. Then when you said to go to the cave, I looked over and saw the cave. I started to walk towards it. I got about halfway there. And Amaterasu popped up behind me, which not that part wasn't so weird, but she seemed giddier than what I thought. And she handed me the mirror instead of me finding it in the cave, but I asked her something, I think. I don't remember what it was. I don't even remember saying anything, but she like turned around to check something, and I got this flash of like the field was actually dark. All the smoke and everything was gone. The field was dark, and she wasn't actually Amaterasu. It was some kind of like, for lack of a much better way to put it, like a demon kind of monster looking thing.
Okay.
Had like
Okay.
yeah, like had like really gray skin. Yeah, pretty much. Had like really gray skin. Bit the face was a bit grotesque, I guess. Had tusks. And then when she turned back to me, or when it turned back to me, it looked like Amaterasu again. It was like a quick flash I got.
Hmm.
So she's tried to get me to touch. Oh, she had me touch the mirror. That's what it was. She had me touch the mirror, and then that's when she turned around. And when she turned back, she wanted me to touch it again, and I got the feeling that she was going to like suck me into it. So I tried to slowly back up towards the cave, and then she asked where I was going, and I took off to a run towards the cave. Um, she chased me, it chased me, and then I kind of dived into the cave where Amaterasu was actually standing. I did not see her one until I was actually into the cave, and there was like a field, like force field, I guess, between the field and the cave, and she like banished the fake her. So she told me to go sit on her rock, uh, pick up the mirror. I didn't have to look at it or anything, just pick it up so it didn't touch the ground. And I sat on a rock. She came over and kneeled in front of me, asked if I was okay. Uh, I said yes. And then she asked what I was there for. I said I don't really have anything. The most I could say was, could you help give me some confidence? Even though I have it, I just need know when to actually use it. Um, she said I could help with that. And then we went over a couple other things that were just like, she gave short answers, like not short as in curt, but short as in she didn't need to explain. Um, and as I was holding the mirror, I could see images flash relating to the scenarios where I would need to know the answers to what she was telling me. And I think then when it was time to go, she didn't take me out to the field again because looking out the cave mouth, it was still dark. So instead, she actually took me deeper into the cave where there was no light. It was like pitch black, but there was a glow around her to where we could see. And then everything just kind of disappeared. I was in the middle of the field with the white yellow fog again. Like, okay, Amaterasu, where'd you go? I don't want to be here. Hello. And I said her name like two, three times. I didn't actually say what I just said. I was just kind of looking around, hoping to find her. But I said her name about two, three times, and then I just kind of snapped back into my body, kind of like, and pretty much everything was gone. Like I felt myself centered again. I could still feel that actually, no, I couldn't really feel that I was in a circle anymore, even though I could tell that I was. But it was like I was disconnected some way, like I was out of it, but still in it. And it was weird because you hadn't even finished the getting back home portion. I was already back, just like, okay, that's weird. Normally that doesn't happen. So, which none of that at all was what I was expecting with her. I didn't have any expectations really, but none of that would have been it.
Yeah, I have some messages for you. Do you want to hear them?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So for one, like my candle and like scrying's been going nuts while you've been talking, by the way. That entire time it's been going nuts. So this is the messages that I have coming through for you based on like everything that like I'm hearing. One, I think that I'm getting like a very strong feeling that like you need to specifically work with your solar plexus chakra. Especially because when you came in, like you were still kind of very much surrounded in it. It was confusing and like hazy. And when you got there, it was dark. So I really feel like your solar plexus chakra, like it's screaming at me that like you need to work with your solar plexus chakra. Um, and also I've noticed too, like when I pull out specific energies, sometimes you say that like you struggle a little bit with like being able to meditate. So I wonder if like maybe you also need to start working with a little bit more specific energy pockets instead of just your energy as a whole. The other thing is because of all the darkness, because of the running around, because of the yokai being present and all of that, like I am very much being told to tell you that like your work with her is going to be very much solely based on protection. There is something that you need to work on for protection, whether it's like for yourself and your boundaries or something. But that is like she's literally screaming at you that like for your light, for your essence, for your all like you need like she's there to help you with protection and boundaries. Does that make any sense at all?
Uh, yeah, it does. I'm not really sure what you mean with working with energy pockets. Like just like different kinds of energy, like little bits of it, or
Correct. So instead of working on your energy system as a whole, going through and working with, for example, specific pockets within your chakra system. So specific energy pockets instead of your energy as an entire whole. So I've noticed like there's been a couple times where when I pull out a very specific like chakra source or specific energy, sometimes like you get a little lost. You do really
Mhm.
well when it's like your energy as a whole, but it seems like sometimes you get a little lost when you have to pull out a specific pocket. Does
Okay.
that help more?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Does the protection thing make sense?
It from your description of it, yes, but I don't really understand why I would need it because I don't really feel like I do.
Okay, well, maybe some shadow work then.
Yeah.
But it definitely feels like it literally feels, it very much feels like that.
Okay. That would make a lot of sense though. I just need to figure out why.
That's the whole fun of this.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Oh, also in the beginning, um, I was thinking about if my house in the woods was going to show up,
Did
which I'm
it?
going to I didn't know if it was because I was thinking it or not, but it actually did at first. It did at first I was there like between the river and the house, but I still had that white yellow cloud stuff around.
Okay, that was gonna be your
And
next question, because that's gonna solidify that theory I've been working on.
okay.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm almost done with that, by the way. I've been pulling from a couple different sources.
Oh, okay. Thank
So
you.
I'm almost done with that. But yes, okay, that makes sense. Good to know
Okay.
that.
Yeah. Yeah, because also the mist, it didn't actually feel good. It didn't feel like it should be white or yellow. It just felt, yeah, I guess kind of confusing. Just very not good how you would think that those colors would feel, if that
Interesting.
makes sense.
No, it makes sense. Okay, 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 okay. Hmm. Okay, that is interesting. That it wouldn't feel. It should. I don't know. I guess because if it's too much, if it's too intense, it can feel uncomfortable. It can feel confusing. It can feel like if it's burning too brightly. So no, that kind of makes sense too. It could have
Yeah.
just been way too much. So
Okay.
that makes sense. I don't like it, and I mean I don't necessarily like it, but it's the duality of it as well. So it makes sense.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
because that part only showed up when I was uncomfortable and when what the fake Amaterasu, which you called the yokai, was there. When I was actually with Amaterasu in her cave, I wasn't there.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
And her
No.
cave felt comfortable. But granted, I kind of like dark, closed spaces. Like I just hang out in my closet and read sometimes. They're just comfortable.
Okay. Well, I'll look into that too, because I'm gonna look at if there's something going on with my energy that may have caused that too, but it does make sense though. Okay,
Okay.
what else you guys got?
Thank you.
You always have a super vivid time, honey. Every time. Every time. I always love hearing yours. If anybody else doesn't want to share, that's totally fine, because we are at 4 o'clock, so that is, we are at end of class, guys. And Joanna, I saw your comment. I love that you loved it. I love that you want to listen to it again. That makes me so excited. And then she said, honey, that sounds like your shadow work deep and scary and worth it, and that you're wanting to incorporate dark and light. Oh, you also said her name 3 times, a few different times. Oh, that's good. I love 3. 3 is a very sacred thing. For me, it finishes a transformation for me. It finishes a cycle. So usually when I do that, like I know that I'm really like finishing a cycle. So yeah, I love that too. And the fact that you both did that. That's synchronicity. Okay. Any other questions, comments, or feedback, guys? Okay. Thank you so much for being with me, you guys, this afternoon. I super, super appreciate it. I'm always honored and humbled when people allow me to teach and guide them. So thank you so much. Check out all of our resources for divination, our website, our YouTube channel, and our Facebook page. You can check out my business as well. I do a lot of things on there outside of divination. So modgepodgemystic.com. I have services I offer. I do weekly tarot reading spreads. I've got a bunch of different things that I offer there. And then the next class in this series will be in a month, because it's on a month rotation, because I teach 8 series right now. We're doing Hestia, the Greek goddess of the hearth. I think that she's incredibly powerful. She's crazy overlooked. I'm also doing her because Tigi loves her. That's like Tigi's patron deity, so it's a big reason why I'm doing her too. So I'm really excited to do her. So thank you guys. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you for spending your afternoon with me.